Hello again, and welcome to part 2 of today's JD Edwards update series. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'm Sasha, I'm Endevr's marketing manager, and we're very pleased that you could join us. For those of you who were in the earlier session, it's great to have you back. Now, in this session, Anne's going to be diving into what JD Edwards is doing to support your digital transformation, specifically through the updates released in January, April and June 2025. And while the earlier session focused on application updates, this one's about the bigger picture, how JD Edwards can help you automate, orchestrate and modernise your business processes using the tools and enhancements delivered by Oracle. You're going to see how these updates enable faster workflows, better user experiences, embedded automation and low-code tools, and support for future-facing IT strategies. At Ndevr, we support JD Edwards customers across ANZ with training, security, automation, and invoice processing tools like Fallout Security, AtomIQ, and ScanMan, and enhancement services tailored to your business. We're here to help you get more from your JD Edwards investment and to future-proof it. Now, our presenter again, of course, is the lovely Anne Thiele, Senior JD Edwards Solutions Consultant. She'll be guiding you through the updates and practical applications. And Anne, I'm going to hand things over to you.
Thanks, Sasha. I had a frog in my throat earlier. I hope I've got rid of it now. Okay, let's dive straight into it. The first thing I want to show you is the new widgets in EnterpriseOne. So basically, it's like Watchlists, but it has a lot of additional stuff that you can do with it. You can not only is it a list, but it can also be a badge, it can be a graph, it can be text information. Let me show you. We take a look at these widgets. Okay, so here on the left, this is a watchlist pane on an E1 page, and instead of it associating a watch list with the with each button, I've associated a widget, and this is showing the most ordered item, the name of the most ordered item, which happens to be the red touring bike, and the quantity. 132.1 million have been ordered of this item. As you can see, this is an item that we use quite often in our demonstrations and things. So these are two badge kind of widgets, which I'll show you in a moment. And here on the right, this is a designer page. And here we've associated various widgets. So there's a graph here, a couple of graphs. There's gauge, temperature gauge, and there are some text boxes widgets down below. And up at the top here, you know, we can add 4 watch lists to an app here, to the button here. Well, you can associate widgets with that watch list instead of a watch list. So you can associate a widget list like this. This is showing the most ordered quantity widget over here. Let's go and take a look in the Orchestrator and see what it looks like. So here in Orchestrator Studio, you will see a new button. It's called Widgets. And if I click on that, you can see how, let's take a look, for example, at this POs by business unit. The widget itself is defined here. I've said this is a chart type of widget as opposed to a badge, a meter or text. And we decide which kind of chart it is below. I've chosen a pie chart in this case. And we can show the legend or not show the legend. That's up to you. This is the configuration. But basically, this widget is associated with a data source coming from an orchestration. So I've got a straightforward orchestration. If I go to edit this orchestration over here, a straightforward orchestration that runs a data request over the purchase orders, that gives me the purchase orders grouped by the business unit, and that is of course output in this orchestration, and that is what is being used as the input to this chart. And I'm saying give me the count, which is why I've got the number of units being, the number of purchase orders by business unit. So that's how more or less a widget is. So this is a graph widget, as I mentioned, and then we've got this temperature one, which is has been set up as a meter or a gauge, okay? And I've chosen this particular arc kind of meter for this guy. And is also associated with an orchestration. This orchestration goes out to the United States Weather Service and brings back the information, the temperature information from there. And similarly, the temperature, the detailed forecast, that one is, it's also on the same orchestration. The data source is the same orchestration. But here, sorry, I defined this, something is in my way here. Yeah, we've defined this as a text box, and it's bringing back the text. So that's the widgets, that's how we set them up, and this is how we get them onto the E1 pages via watch lists, the watch list pane, or a designer pane over here. Okay, so that's the widgets. And then the next thing is under my tasks. There are two enhancements here. First is the addition of a notification to the messages. So if you set up a message request in an orchestration to go to an address number, it's always went to the work center. That's where it went, right? And now you have the ability to send it also to the notification list, or instead of the work center, you can send it to a notification list. Basically, when you're setting up a message request, on the right-hand side, you'll now see there's a drop-down where you can choose work center, notification list, or both. Of course, if you've chosen to send the message to an email address rather than a JDE address number, this feature wouldn't be available. And the second little enhancement on the tasks is that, I'm sure you all remember that in previous releases, Oracle provided this ability to track tasks. So we can have task tracking via the orchestrations and so on. And well, now you can filter your work center on your notification list, or your notification list. You can filter the work center or the notification list to show only the open tasks. It just makes it easier to manage your tasks. Okay, this is one I'm quite excited about, the comparative criteria on form requests and etc. It's quite a small thing, but it makes a big impact. Now, well, I don't know if it was small. I presume it was quite a big thing to do. On a data request in Orchestrator, you can now map data items to compare against. For example, here you can say where the date closed is greater than the due date, for example, or greater than the GL date, if you wanted to. You have the ability to pick a column from the table to compare. You can do the same if you're using the aggregation function in logic extensions. You'll see if I filter on the due date, on the right, there's a new icon for columns. And if you click on that icon, a list of the appropriate columns is provided that you can choose from. So now you can compare within itself, so to speak. So that's the comparative criteria on form requests, etc. And then they've also given, Oracle have also delivered effectively the same functionality on queries within JDE, so, and by extension on watch lists. So on the query now, if you're setting up a query and you set it up, for example, here I've got the date closed, you can actually choose today or put in a date or whatever the case is, or you can click on the columns and it will bring an appropriate list of columns for you to choose from to match the date closed to, or to compare it to. And of course, that then becomes part of the watch list. anybody who's worked in Orchestrator will appreciate this enhancement. So this just warns you if you are going to try and change a component that has that's still reserved. So basically, if you do any change in a shared Orchestrator, it will come up with this message that says reserve to make changes. So that's fantastic, because we really, I think everybody who's used Orchestrator has experienced that you make a whole load of changes and then realize you forgot to reserve it, and you lose all your changes because you can't save them and you have to start again. So this is very welcome, a very welcome enhancement. Then also on in orchestrations, when you launch an orchestration or a notification from a form, you can already change the name. So if it says customer number on the actual orchestration, you can change it for this application to say customer address, supplier number, whatever is appropriate. Okay, but now in addition to that, you can now define for that form request, you can define a translation. So in this case, if the language is Dutch, we're translating it to client address instead of customer address, for example. Okay, let's look at some more. There are watch lists now on EnterpriseOne page connectors. So this allows you now, we've had already the ability to add the watch lists to the actual application. Then, you know, you can add 4 of them associated in the application. You can now add a watch list to the actual connector along the way. And when we say watch list, also those badges, you know, the widget badges, they can also be added here as well. Another small enhancement that is very useful is that you can now pass the application version as a variable in message links. So again, in Orchestrator, if you're setting up a message and you set up a link in that message, you always had to hard code the version. Now you don't have to, you can set it up as a variable. So for example, if you've got a message going out for somebody to verify information of an address book record, if the candidate is a new applicant, you can send the link to launch the address book version for applicants. If the candidate is an existing employee, then you can launch the address book version for employees simply by using a variable here. So just gives you a bit of extra functionality on the messages. Also on orchestrations, if you use FTP or REST connectors to transfer files, you'll know that up until now, it stores the file in the temporary location on the AIS server, but now your system administrator can configure it so that you can specify an absolute path to any directory on the AIS server file system. So you're not restricted just to the temporary file server. And now these are the June updates that have just come through, some lovely ones, hot off the press here. The switch statement in the logic extension, I really like this. In the olden days, i.e. pre-June, we used to have to, if we wanted to do some actions, maybe set a category code based on the business unit type, for example, we would have to say if the business unit type is a balance sheet, then do this. Else, if the business unit type is an income statement, then do this. Else, if the business unit type is a job, you get the idea. Now, with the switch statement, we can put them all along here and we define the balance sheet, the income statement, what has to happen there, what has to, all under the single switch statement. Makes it much easier to read, much easier to manage, much easier to debug. It's a much simpler thing than the nested ifs in that case. So that's the switch statement in the logic extensions. Another enhancement hot off the press is the widget pane on EnterpriseOne pages. So we looked at the widgets earlier on, but what we can now do is not only can we associate, or we can set a widget up as part of the watch lists, or we can set the widgets up as part of a designer page, but we've also got this brand new widget pane here. So we can add the widgets as their own individual panes on a composed page. So if I go and take a look at this composed page, when you click the content here, you find there's a new widget pane down below for you to be able to add that. Oh, this is a nice one as well. You can now define as defaults system values in your Orchestrator inputs. So basically on your Orchestrator inputs under default values, you can get a list of system values that you can pick from. That means really that when you you might push this to be only to pass through the logged in user or the logged in user's address number, or the system date. Very handy if you're scheduling an orchestration, and you can always pass through the system date as the default value in for the inputs. There's also other system values here, like the orchestration name and a few others. You can pick whichever ones are appropriate for you. Last but not least, the rich formatting of workflow messages. We've seen the rich formatting of messages, other messages and notifications in Orchestrator, and now, but it was always very plain text in the workflow, but now workflow messages have got the same functionality. So you can use different fonts, make it italic, bold, different colors, change the font size, add in tables, add in pictures, everything that you can do in the other messages for rich formatting, you can now do on workflow messages as well. Okay, well, that's the story of the enhancements of release 25 from January to now on the digital transformation side. Back to you, Sasha.
Oh, thank you very much, Anne. So that wraps up our sessions on JD Edwards for today. I'd really like to say a very big thank you to Anne for all the work that she's put into compiling these presentations for us. And thank you all for turning up and being part of it. And as always, if you'd like to chat about how Ndevr can help implement, train, support or enhance your JDE system, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I want to thank you all again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.